This course is called Law and Society, not just law. This course is called Law and Society. This course is called Law and Society. What is it that we're actually doing in this course? Now, Law and Society is, in fact, to me, a very exciting course. It is a very relevant course for all students. How so? In the first part of the course, in Part A, what we're looking at is our system of government. What kind of a state do we live in? What kind of a government do we have? What are the different branches of government? And then from there, we go into Part B. In Part B, we look at legal theories. There are a number of theories out there as to why people obey the law, and we examine those in Part B. We move on from Part B into Part C, and in Part C, we look at one of the most important legal matters in society today: proprietary rights. Who owns this hat? Who owns this phone? Do people have different understandings of property? Are there some things in society that are so sacred that they cannot be owned by an individual? Can a person be owned by an individual? Can a woman be owned by a man? Is a child the property of their parents? What about water? What about knowledge? Ideas? Are these things that can be owned? We consider that in Part C. From there we go into Part D. What rights do you have? Do you have any rights? We know we have the Bill of Rights Act, but we know the Bill of Rights Act is merely an ordinary law that can be suspended by Parliament. Can Parliament decide tomorrow that people can be tortured? Maybe they can, maybe they cannot. Are there special rights for different groups of people? What do we do in times of crises? What do we do if we're at war? Do all the same laws still apply? Or do things shift? And in the fifth and final part, in Part E, we consider all of these matters together and talk about New Zealand's future. Will we remain a constitutional monarchy? Or are we going to become a republic? What are we going to do about this treaty business? Is the treaty going to remain as something that is dividing New Zealand society? Is the treaty a document that can in fact bring New Zealand society together? These are the questions we examine. Each of us possesses many assumptions about life. We have many assumptions about the way society works and the way it doesn't. We have many assumptions about what it is that we aspire to, what it is that we desire, what kind of a life that it is that we want. But we see that there are many different versions of these aspirations. How much thought have we put into these assumptions about life? Ask someone if they believe a diamond to be valuable, and the answer inherently is yes. But why? And how much thought have they put into it? We're talking actual thought, genuine thought. And the answer, unfortunately, sadly, is not very much. There are different levels of knowing, and there are different levels of understanding. What is pre-structural? You know next to nothing. You may think you know a lot, but the fact is, you do not know much at all. Unistructural, you've scratched the surface. Multistructural, we understand individual topics in depth. Individual topics in depth. Then we go to relational thinking, level 4. You begin to appreciate the connections, the relationships between topics. When one is engaging in relational thinking, when one is at that 4th level of understanding, one appreciates the relationships between differing categories. The 5th one, extended abstract, pinnacle if you will. This is where original and creative thinking begins. So you are capable of extracting ideas that relate to one topic and then applying them to another. So if we were to think about it in terms of wealth, we can say that, you know what? Material wealth brings a certain amount of comfort. Material wealth brings friendship. What is that similar to? Could be similar to popularity. There are some people out there who are popular, and this brings a certain amount of comfort to them. It brings a certain amount of friendship, companionship. At the same time, we see that one thing that excessive wealth does is attract a lot of parasites, people who are trying to extract that wealth from us, just as popularity does as well. This type of thinking happens at the 5th level, the extended abstract. On a daily basis, most people move between the pre-structural and the multi-structural. Rarely do they go beyond that. To succeed in law and society, you need to up your game to level 3 and above. If you remain in levels 1 and 2, you will fail this course. Simple as that. If you make your way to level 3, multi-structural, and understand topics in depth, you'll probably manage to eke by with a C+. If you work smart and get yourself to level 4, well, at that point, you are likely to receive a B+ in the course, possibly even an A-. If somehow you work hard, you work smart, and you manage to achieve level 5, then this is what opens the door to the A+. Write this down. Time plus effort equals learning. That's it. You want to succeed in university, you need to put in the time and you need to make the effort. It is as simple and yet as complicated as that. Identify core themes and ideas. It's not just reading for the sake of reading. It's reading to understand. Search for related newspaper articles. And you'll come to understand that what we're talking about in this course matters in your lives. Once you make that connection, this will take on greater meaning. You will come to understand it better. You will be more impassioned about it. Ergo, you will learn more. Lecturers have their own style of teaching. A skill that you should develop while you're at university is one known as adaptation. You should learn to adapt to the different styles that your lecturers exhibit. University is self-driven. At the end of the day, you will get in what you put into it. You put in a lot, you will get out of it a lot. You put in little, you will get out little. Learning begins when you start asking questions. Anytime you read something, you should manage to generate a question. If you're generating a question, it means you are thinking about these issues. Final point, lecturers have opinions. What these opinions are, at least in this course, at least with this lecture, are irrelevant. Do not agree just for the sake of trying to earn some Browning points. Instead, use this opportunity to learn, to decide for yourself what type of person you are, what it is that you believe in, what it is that you want to struggle and fight for. Don't worry about everyone else. Law is not maths. Law is not science. There are many right answers. There are many correct answers. You have to understand that we are not concerned with the answer. So you can argue, you can put forward an argument about a particular issue. You can do it from 2 different angles, from opposing angles, and be correct both times, both ways. The conclusion is not what we're interested in. Instead, it's the analysis. It's the process that got you to that conclusion that we want to see. Yes or no, irrelevant. How you got to yes or no, very relevant. You don't have to learn everything. It's not about memorization. It's more about understanding the gist of the lecture, understanding the gist of the materials. When it comes to to these lessons, understand that the lesson is giving you a bird's eye view into a wider subject. You're meant to try to understand this and to create a bigger picture for yourself. You have to be aware which claims, which matters are before which court, and how are those resolved, and based on what. An easy way to think about it is Iraq. Issue, rule, application, conclusion. When you're going through issue, rule, application, conclusion, it is important that you think not just about issues of law, but also issues of society. Think of the lecture not as a single element. Think of it holistically, as a whole case. As a whole case that is situated within a particular period in time in New Zealand. What I want you to do is to place each one of those lectures along a wider timeline, where you're thinking of the course as a whole, and saying to yourself, how is this course relevant today? Those who start to understand this course on a timeline, those who start to understand the macro picture of law and society, and understand that it's not just law, but law and society, are those who will be most successful in the test, most successful in the exam, and those who are likely to proceed to part 2.